Allison, thank you so much for that. So that strike that we're talking about right here comes as more and more Americans are quitting their jobs altogether. The latest figures show a whopping 4.3 million people quit working in August. That's the highest resignation rate since the Labor Department began tracking it in late 2000. Add to that, a Gallup poll finds among people who are employed, 48% are actively job searching or watching for opportunities. So what is behind this? Why are people quitting their jobs at a record rate right now? Joining me now is someone who has some insight, Anthony Klotz. He's a professor of business administration at Texas A&M. He coined the phrase that everyone is using for this right now, the Great Resignation. Anthony, thank you. I've been watching your commentary and reading your work for some time on this now. You've researched the psychology of quitting for much of your career, which in and of itself is fascinating. So who is quitting and why?
Well, there's really a few different buckets of individuals who are quitting and reasons driving this resignation boom that's happening right now. And the first are individuals who during 2020, had it been a normal year, would have quit anyway. So kind of a backlog of resignations of individuals who have decided to quit. There's another group of individuals that have reached high levels of burnout during the pandemic. And we know burnout is a predictor of people quitting their jobs. So individuals who just need a break and are burnt out are quitting. There's also a large group of individuals who have had epiphanies for one reason or another during the pandemic and want to change the place that work is in their lives. And so they're making these big life pivots. And then finally, there's a group of individuals who had their work changed during the pandemic, often in terms of bringing them at home to work, and really enjoy working from home or working remotely and don't want to shift back to whatever work arrangement their organization has. And so this is what makes it kind of challenging for organizations to get their arms around, are these different causes of the Great Resignation.
Yeah, and what do you do about it? How do you adjust your, I don't know, corporate culture to work around this is a big question. The demographics of it, if that's the right word, I'd love to dive into if we could. There's a graphic on your screen of showing that women are leaving the workforce in the latest jobs report more than, and men are being added to the workforce. But like, who is it? Is it in terms of who's quitting? Women versus men, city versus rural, coast versus the middle of the country, income level? Is it clear to you yet where the trends are in terms of who is quitting?
Yeah, those are great questions. And what you point out, we do know that during the pandemic and in this Great Resignation, as we hopefully exit the pandemic, that women, especially women caregivers, are leaving the workforce at a higher rate than others, which is especially troubling. Beyond that, in terms of generation, in terms of parts of the country, we don't really have a great feel for this yet. And I think part of that challenge, again, comes from the split that I see between workers are individuals who weren't able to work remotely. So non-office workers, shift workers, and some of the highest resignation numbers we see is in retail, in food service, in healthcare, these individuals who didn't have the option to work from home. And so you have this split between people who were able to achieve more flexible work arrangements during the pandemic, and then those who were really serving us during the pandemic and unable to get a break. And I think that's where we see a lot of the resignations right now.
That's really interesting. And you talk about, obviously, the pandemic has played a part in this. And two reasons that people have thrown out as a possible reason behind some of this exodus that we're seeing is people are quitting over vaccine mandates that their companies are putting into place. Or also people are slow to return to work because of enhanced unemployment benefits that are out there. Are you seeing that?
So the few cases where companies have disclosed their numbers around vaccine mandates have shown that a pretty small percentage of individuals actually end up leaving when a vaccine mandate gets put in place. So I'm sure that's a part of it, but maybe overstated a bit. And so I haven't seen that as much.
It's really interesting. And I guess it's also important for us to say that for all the people who can quit and reassess and look for more fulfilling work, if that's what they are looking for, there are just as many people, or many more, who have little savings, no partner to support them and prop them up, and have no option to quit because they're just trying to make ends meet. And I'm just wondering how that fits into this massive shift.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because whenever we talk about the ability to quit your job, there's a certain amount of privilege that comes into that from either an economics perspective or some other perspective, that you're able to walk away and realize there's still lots of employees who were laid off during the pandemic that are trying to get back in the workforce and are struggling to do so. So this does seem to be a very uneven trend to some extent where people are exercising their ability to quit their jobs in some cases, and others trying to get back into the workforce and struggling to do that. And I think a big question is whether these individuals who are quitting actually have the ability to quit long term, or whether they're just taking a break from the workforce due to their burnout or whatever it may be, and plan to re-enter at some point in the future. And I think that's on a lot of organizational leaders' minds, is for these people who are exiting, where are they going? How long are they going to be out? And hopefully they're not out permanently.
So fascinating, the psychology of quitting and what that means today. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Kate.